Hello, everyone. Let us begin with the next chapter, biological classification. But before moving into the details of this chapter, we must think about all the different classification systems which have developed through the course of time. And as the information of the species and the organisms kept on advancing with the advancing technology and the vision of the scientists, similarly the way the classification system was done, it also underwent various changes. This classification system has been talked about or have been discussed from the time of Vedic literature. So you can think that it is around 2500 BC to 650 BC. That was the time period during which the first classification system had been discussed in our old Vedas. Not only that, various other laureates, they always went on classifying organisms like Shushruta, Chandrayogna, Hippocrates, Theocritus, all these, they always classified organisms, but there was no as such basis for their classification. So we will not at all discuss about all these individuals. We will discuss from two kingdom classification till the today's five kingdom classification system. So the very first kingdom classification was talked about or came into existence after Aristotle. Aristotle was the person who started differentiating plants and animals into two different categories, and he always tried to do the classification, sub classification, on the basis as if it is for the plants, then he tried to discriminate or divide the plants into herbs, shrubs, and trees. And if it is for the animals, he went on to dividing them into different categories on the basis of the oviparous or viviparous nature. I hope you all remember the oviparous. Oviparous animals are those who lay eggs, whereas the viviparous animals are the ones who give birth to the young ones directly. Other than these two classification, the terrestrial, aquatic, as well as the birds who were always aerial, this classification system was also thought about by Aristotle himself. But Careless Linnaeus, he just came in when he started experimenting or classifying the organisms. He kept into mind more about the methods of classification in terms of naming. So he gave the binomial nomenclature. His interest was not into classification much, but he definitely classified the organisms on the names of or on the basis of naming system, and he followed the binomial nomenclature. So just his interest was more in binomial nomenclature rather than the classification. So these two, Aristotle as well as Linnaeus, they followed the two kingdom classification of division only. Although Linnaeus, he was little aware about the fishes, insects, arthropods, but he did not categorize them as such in um, the way like later on the scientists they classified them. He just gave a mixed reaction to it. The next evident work is of Haeckel. Ernest Haeckel was a scientist who classified the organisms in three kingdoms, and he gave the three kingdom classification. So three kingdom classification was given by the by Haeckel, Ernest Haeckel, and what were the names or kingdoms he classified it the organisms into? He classified the organisms into Protista, because by that time there was some understanding about different microorganisms. And other than that, he classified the organisms into metaphyta, which were the plants. He just named them as metaphyta, and the metazoa. Metazoa were the organisms who are the animals. So the classification system was as such that all the microorganisms as Protista, metaphyta included the plantae, and metazoa included the animals. This was the three kingdom classification. After the three kingdom classification system, the four kingdom classification system came into play, and it was given by Copeland. Copeland was a scientist who described or who differentiated basically between the microorganisms. So this metaphyta and metazoa remained the same. Metaphyta was the plants. he did not do anything with that, and neither he did anything with the metazoa. Both of them remained as such. Whereas when it came up to the microorganisms, over there he classified the organisms into two halves. One, he said that the organisms will be called as mycota, because the organisms who were included in the mycota category, they all were blue green alga, bacteria, archaebacteria, or small microscopic organisms who are prokaryotic in nature. And the protista remained as such, protista, but he made very evident proclamations that this protista will be containing only the eukaryotic microorganisms. So by this, four kingdom classification system came into play. So Copeland gave the four kingdom classification system. And after that came the next classification system, where which was given by Robert Whittaker, R.H. Whittaker, and he gave the five kingdom classification. He classified the organisms as Monera, the classification system which we are following nowadays. It is this classification system where Monera, Protista, he was the one who differentiated the fungi from the plantae, and he made it very evident that fungi has various different characteristics from the plants, and they lack the chlorophyll. They have outer cell wall which is much different from the plantae cell wall. Even he said that the reserve food material for the fungi is glycogen like the animals, whereas for the plants it is the starch. So these few things made it quite obvious that the fungi must be given a. One more thing was there, that is the mode of nutrition. If you see the mode of nutrition for fungi, it is saprophytic, whereas for plantae it is most of the times, or it is always autotrophic. So these all things came to or led to the discovery, or you can say organization of fungi into a completely different kingdom, and all the other animals were categorized as Animalia. You all know the spelling Animalia. So this is the five kingdom today, the kingdom system which we all follow, that kingdom system which is the five kingdom classification. It was given by R.H. Whittaker. Please remember two important names we have discussed till now. One is Carolus Linnaeus, who gave the five kingdom classification system. R.H. Whittaker, who gave the five kingdom classification system. So Carolus Linnaeus for binomial nomenclature and R.H. Whittaker for five kingdom classification. Remember these two. Short questions are asked from here. Sometimes even 3 marks, like three kingdom classification was given by which scientist, or two kingdom classification was given by which scientist. This kind of questions also come for 1 mark. Now you all can see the next scientist name is also written, that is Voice. Voice was a scientist who classified the all the organisms in six kingdom classification system. We don't follow this kingdom classification system yet, but still this made a very remarkable change in the thought process of the taxonomists, because we have already discussed about the archaebacterium till now. So archaebacterium, categorizing it with the normal bacterium, it is very controversial. So Voice said that let's not categorize archaebacterium and bacterium together, let's separate them. So he did that. So he said that the classification system will be six kingdom classification system. The first kingdom will be archaebacteria. After the archaebacteria, there should be the monerans, and it will be followed by the all of them as the same: monerans, protista, fungi, plantae, and the animalia. I hope children, by this you all have little bit rough idea about how the classification system has been developing. And here, this archaebacteria grouping makes uh, it very evident that rRNA is very important molecule nowadays for classification system. And voice categorize the six kingdoms on the basis of rRNA only, and that's why we have this six kingdom classification given by voice. We don't use this for study anymore, or we have not yet started using voice system of classification as a matter of study, but still it is there, and it is the latest system of classification system. So let's see that how did this five kingdom classification system came into play. The five kingdom classification system was given by R.H. Whitaker. This is something we have already discussed. And when he was classifying the organisms, he classified them in five groups, and the classification was based on some characters: the body size, the mode of nutrition, the complexity of organisms, and even the phylogenetic history. So, on the basis of all this, the classification system was applied to the animals, or the grouping was done on the basis of all these criteria. So if we take each of the criteria separately, it will be complexity of the cells. It means how are the cells arranged. Suppose at first one cell is there performing all the functions. Is it like that? Or group of cells are there who are performing the same function, or organ system level of organization is there, or some other level of organization is there, system level of organization is there. On the basis of these criteria, the classification was done. Complexity of organisms, it means that how complex the structure of an organism is just one cell performing all the function, or there is different cell or different tissue performing different works, or different organs performing different works. Mode of nutrition, it means that either the organism is autotrophic or heterotrophic mode of nutrition is being followed by the organism. In heterotrophic mode of nutrition, what kind of mode is being followed. So everything was kept into very precise account while doing the classification. We'll just look into one of the chart in order to understand it in a much better way. So here is a chart by which we are looking into the five kingdom classification system. The very first thing is that the organisms, they are categorized here, okay, as at first the nucleus, presence or absence of nucleus. Monodons are the only one who do not have presence of nucleus. And nucleus, the content of the nucleus is just spread in the central part of the cell, and it is known as the nucleoid. Whereas the protista, fungi, animalia, and plantae, all of them, they have prominent nucleus, and nucleus is present in a membrane bound structure which is known as nuclear membrane. Mitochondria is also absent in the prokaryotes, but it is present in all the rest kingdoms. Plastids are also absent in the prokaryotes, but it is present in the rest of the organisms, or next of rest of the kingdoms. Cell wall is non-cellulosic. This is something which we have been discussing like from a couple of days. Non-cellulosic means it is made up of proteins, and whereas for all the rest it is most of the time cellulosic. Not for all of them, for plants as well as for protista it is cellulosic, whereas even for the fungi it is non-cellulosic. It is made up of glycogen, and certain more substances are there for the formation of the outer covering. Multicellularity, nuclear membrane we have already discussed. Multicellularity is absent in the prokaryotic because they are single cell organisms. Even protists are single cell, so it is absent over there also. In the fungi you can see multicellularity being present, but there is a difference. One mycelia is attached with another mycelia, and these all mycelia are very closely attached, forming bundles, and that's why we say that the fungi, they have tissue level of organization at times, but it is not very evident because each of the hyphae can be separated as well. When we discuss the fungi you will understand it much better. The motility is the movement can be seen in the bacteria with the help of flagella, or at times just they have gliding movement. Gliding means jumping movement. They can be here and then after they will be shooted up to another place. here. And how the shooting will take place, it is just because of some pressure being created or backflow being created by the organism as such. Other than that, you will see that all the other organisms, they have presence of cilia, flagella, or contractile muscles, because of which the movement can be seen. The plants, they do not show locomotion, but the response to stimulus is definitely there in them. So that is about the plantae. Nutrition, autotrophic mode of nutrition is sometimes seen in this bacteria, but most of the time it's holozoic mode of nutrition. Holozoic mode is of nutrition is just engulfing the food particle and digesting it with the enzymes present in the organism. Other than that, sometimes saprophytic mode or parasitic mode of nutrition can also be seen. You are aware that the monerans or the bacteria, they are, some most of the time some of them are parasitic in nature. They cause diseases. So that is the reason for them becoming parasitic. Living on the host is the condition. Sometimes they are photosynthetic, protista, they can be photosynthetic like the cyanobacterium, and heterotrophic like other bacterium. If you think about bacillus or other bacteria, or sorry, not bacillus, amoeba or euglena or any other bacterium, if you prokaryotic bacterium, if you think of, they all fall in this category. Heterotrophic mode of nutrition is seen in some of these fungi. Basically it is saprophytic mode of nutrition in the fungi. Sometimes there is some exception, but most of the time it's saprophytic mode of nutrition. For the plants it is always autotrophic, and for human beings or larger animals it is either parasitic or heterotrophic type. Sexual reproduction can be seen in the bacteria by conjugation, transduction, and transformation. We'll study about the details of it. Syngamy is a process which can be seen in the bacteria who are eukaryotic bacteria, and, and the protista basically. And fertilization by process of dikaryon formation is seen in the fungi. Plantae has meiosis. You have studied about mitosis and meiosis in class 10, so you can just recapitulate that entire process. So with the process of mitosis and meiosis, the division takes place in plantae as well as in animalia. Nervous system is not present in the prokaryotic organisms. It is there, showing just stimulus, response to stimulus in protista, whereas it is absent in fungi as well as plantae. Since here it is written that nervous system, that's why they are saying it is absent. Response to stimuli is definitely there. Presence of complex nervous system in the human being. So this makes the human beings the most complex organisms amongst all. So they are the most complex ones. Now we will just look into one of the things, that is how the cells were arranged, or how the movement of the cells we have seen, or complexity of the cells, it has arisen from during the course of evolution. And this is known as phylogenetic relationship of five kingdoms. At first there was a single cell which was present. Now this single cell was as such that it was one cell, and this cell underwent two evolution to form either the monerans, the prokaryotic organisms, or it went to form the viruses. So the family tree was the same. The base cell was one, and it could have two fate. One, it either went to become a virus, either modified to become a virus, or went into modification to become a moneran. But this moneran, the one which went to become a moneran, that same cell underwent becoming either a moneran or a protestant. Now when it was becoming a moneran, at that time the nucleoid structure was there. The nucleus was just present in the center of the cell. There was no nuclear membrane present. But as it got modified by presence of certain acellular substances, or with getting much amount of nutrition, some complexity arose, and that complexity led towards the formation of nuclear membrane. If the nuclear membrane is formed, then the cell is little more, you can think of becoming much more advanced. And there was also presence of flagellomanol in the protista. It was there in the monerans as well, but it was not that evident as evident it became in the protista. You can see cilia and flagella both being present and performing the function in a much advanced way as compared to the monerans. But in fungi, we can see that there was this parasitic and saprophytic mode of nutrition taking place. So just little advancement, but the advancement was in the mode of nutrition. The mode of nutrition was as such that it does not require the fluid medium for being alive or for movement. It can be found even in the dry soil, and even dead organisms, there it can grow itself. So that was saprophytic mode of growth, or you can say absorptive mode of nutrition, which was taking place in the fungi. Then after, the animals, from fungi only we say that the animals may have developed, because we don't have any color. You can see human beings, or the lower organisms like the porifera or nidarians, they are, most of them are basically colorless. So this shows that maybe we have the same chain of growth like the fungi. And you all remember, we were discussing, when we were discussing about the archaebacterium, or the taxonomic first chapter, the living world, I said that there may be two chances. Either one organism was there, and it somehow feeded on, suppose a fungi was there and it feeded on another prokaryotic bacteria. This bacteria was chlorophyll, and because of consumption of chlorophyll, it became capable of doing photosynthesis. So that is how the plants were formed. The first plant cell or alga may have formed. And in the similar way, the human beings, the fungi was there and it was having saprophytic mode of nutrition. Suddenly, that fungi somehow absorbed a bacterium, and that bacterium was a mitochondria. Now, when I say mitochondria or chlorophyll, it will not be only mitochondria or chlorophyll itself. There may be a organism which will be looking like, or which will have similarity in structure like a chlorophyll or like a mitochondria. And when they were engulfed or taken up by the organism, then after, they became an integral part of that animal and started dividing along with them. And that's why today's organisms, living organisms, they have presence of the higher organisms, like the plants have presence of chlorophyll within them, and a separate DNA is there, chloro, if you see the chloroplast. This chlorophyll containing cell was taken up, and we say that it may be a chloroplast. So if a chloroplast was taken up, this chloroplast knows how to make food by autotrophic mode of nutrition. So that is what happened. So autotrophic mode of nutrition was became an integral part of the plant kingdom, and ATP generation became an evident part of the animal kingdom with the help of mitochondria. So this is how the development may have taken place. It is not necessary that it took place in this way, but there is a chance that may be the evolution, it has occurred in the same way. So this is all about the introduction. You all can think in a wise way and try to understand that how did the evolution occurred through the course of time.